Okay, we're picking up in Joshua 16. I brought you the map this week because we are good. We may get through all the tribes. And this is where they're all split up. I also brought you the numerology chart. We talked about that last week. Remember, those numbers are really important, so you can see why 12 is an important number to God, but he never talks about 13 tribes, because 13 is rebellion and backsliding. Although those tribes were rebellious and backsliding, but 12 is the number of government. It's also organization. So you want that number instead of 13. So 3, 5, 7, those are all godly numbers. Okay, so Joshua chapter 16. Again, we're going to have blocks of verses where we are not going to read them because I do not want to see you struggling over names. But we will talk about sections. But we will do some reading. So, Olga, verse 1 through 4.
The allotment for Joseph began at the Jordan, east of the spring of the Jericho, and went up to through the desert into the hill country of Bethel. It went on from Bethel, that is Rose, crossed over the territory of the Arkites and descended westward to the territory to the Japhetis, as far as the region of Lower Beth Horon, and on the Gezer, ending at the Mediterranean Sea. So Manasseh and Ephraim, the descendants of Joseph, received their inheritance.
So if you look on the map, Manasseh and Ephraim on the west side of the Jordan River, they got a big old honking piece of land.
Yeah.
And Manasseh has even more land on the other side. They are a huge tribe.
Yeah.
So one of the first things to notice is it says the allotment of the people of Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Manasseh and Ephraim descended from Joseph. So they kind of grouped them together here. Sometimes they're grouped together, sometimes they're split apart. They're considered half tribes. So this seems to talk about the total land between the two tribes. It's also a reminder of why these two tribes are two tribes and not the tribe of Joseph.
Yeah, right.
Because Joseph received a special honor, and the tribes belonged to his sons instead of him. So 2 sons. They were granted equal status to all the other tribes. So we see the Arkites in here. Eventually, one of the Arkites is going to become a counselor of David. So they don't wipe out the Arkites. Remember, they're supposed to wipe out everybody, but they're not wiping them all out. One of the things here, we see Manasseh listed first. He was the younger son. You would think we'd see the older son listed first. But this is the order that when Judah was on his deathbed, he blessed his children and the 2 children of Joseph, and he blessed Manasseh first. There was a priority order for him. So, one of the things about this is Judah and the 2 half-tribes received their allotment at Gilgal. Remember, they're camped at Gilgal. The other tribes are not going to get their allotment till things move to Shiloh. I'm not sure why these 2.5 tribes get theirs earlier. I think maybe they were more pushy. They wanted their land. We're going to see the other tribes aren't pushy at all about it. So I think they were proactive in wanting to get their land. One of the places mentioned here, Bethel. Last week we talked about how Beth, anytime you see the word Beth, it means house of. And El means God. So Bethel means house of God. So we see up there Beth Horon, that means house of Horon. Bethel is where Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And he set up a stone monument there. It's going to become an important city in Judges. We're going to see that. Later, when the Israel splits into two nations, Bethel is going to be the religious center for the north. So let's go on to, so they split it up by the tribe. Now they're going to, in verse 5 through 10, they're splitting it up by the clans, by the family. So we're not going to read all that except verse 10. And Bev, you want to read verse 10?
Yeah, I would, but
Okay.
mine doesn't number.
Okay.
So if I start with, this was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh, is that right? As Joseph
The verse
was
before
born.
that, right? The first, just a little
Verse
bit before that.
Yeah, above it. We're talking about Ephraim. Actually, we're trying to end
It
this.
also included all the towns and their villages.
Next one.
Yeah, next one.
However,
Yeah.
And
And
I don't have that.
okay, so yeah, just
Oh,
verse 10.
okay. Yeah, she's got it here. So what do you want me to read?
Verse 10.
Verse 10. But they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in Gezer. So the Canaanites live in the midst of Ephraim to this day, and they became forced laborers.
Okay, we're going to see this a lot. That they're not going to drive these people out. That they make them slaves. Now, what were they told?
kill them all.
Kill them all. And they aren't. And it's going to come back to bite them. Really bad. They should have killed them all. Now, Joshua is from the tribe of Ephraim. So this is his tribe. But later he's going to get his own special area too. So Ephraim gets a rugged mountainous area. Now when they left Egypt, Ephraim was larger than Manasseh. But they aren't anymore. I mean, you look at the size. A lot of this land allotment was based on how big the tribe was. It was also based on what kind of land it was. An acre of desert is nothing compared to an acre of lushness. So they took that into account too. But a big part of it was the size of the tribe. So you can see how much bigger Manasseh is than Ephraim. But Ephraim started off bigger. They started off as the 10th largest tribe, and Manasseh was the 12th. Now Manasseh is the 6th largest tribe. So you may be wondering, why do they get all that land? Everything on that side of the Jordan is desert.
Yeah.
So not the best land.
So both sides of Jordan is Manasseh.
Manasseh, half of them settled on one side, half of them settled on the other side. But don't worry, Ephraim's still going to play an important part in history. Besides Joshua being part of them, there's more that's going to come from them. So again, they don't drive everybody out. Gezer doesn't come under control of the Israelites until the days of Solomon. There are going to be problems until then. But they don't win it through battle. The Egyptians had come up and conquered Gezer. And Solomon marries the Pharaoh's daughter, and Pharaoh makes Gezer a gift. What is Egypt doing up there conquering their land? Because they didn't conquer it themselves. the Israelites are compromising. They're thinking, oh, we need slaves. Let's let them live. God doesn't like compromise. So it's going to be a problem. The Canaanites had to either fully surrender or they were to be put to death. Well, there's no surrender here. And if they had the power to make them slaves, they surely had the power to kill them all. And this eventually means the Canaanites they don't kill are pulling their religion in, and the Israelites are going to start buying into it and start worshiping their gods. And that's trouble. That's why God wanted them all dead. He didn't want them compromised.
Do we see this mindset in the
Yes.
Jews today?
Yes.
And then, well,
Yeah. But then we see the mindset in the whole, in everything.
Yeah,
We,
yeah.
we all
But I mean,
compromise.
but
Yeah.
the world does not see that.
Oh,
And so they
yeah.
say,
Yeah.
Leave them.
have peace.
Yeah. It's kind of a picture of us too. We have this little sin that we want to make a pet. We want to make it our slave. And then eventually that slave is going to overtake us.
Yes.
God says, get rid of it. And we're going to see these Gezerites take control in Judges. Now, one thing about this list, if you look back at the list, it's all about the boundaries. There's no cities mentioned. It's not that there weren't cities, there just weren't any really significant cities that they wanted to bring to talk about. Okay, so that finished chapter 16. That was a fast chapter.
My book totally left out 10. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was looking to see where they would have put it. Because mine's in chronological order. So verse 10 has got to be somewhere else, but I can't find it. Yeah.
You need to bring better read a different version.
Yeah. Okay, so chapter 17, let's look at verse 1. Is Betty?
Just verse 1.
Just verse 1.
Now this was the lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph. To Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, was allotted Gilead and Bashan, because he was a man of war.
Okay, and then verse 2 is about who the other descendants. This is going back because it's talking about the guys on the east side of the Jordan, because Gilead is on the east side. This is talking about that first half of the half tribe of Manasseh. Machir, yes, Gilead and Bashan because he was a man of war. Back in Numbers 32, we found out that he and part of the army had gone up to Gilead and they kicked everybody out. The Amorites that lived there. So makes sense. He gets the land. That's why he's mentioned, because he was kind of a hero. Okay, Kelly, verse 3 through 6.
Sure. Take one out of
Yeah,
the-
I know.
Mr. Z.
But except for
Just say Z.
yeah,
Don't worry about it.
except for that name, everything else is
Now Zelphadad, the son of Heper, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. And these are the names of the daughters.
You can skip the names. Go to
They approached Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun and the leaders and said, "The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance along with our brothers. So according to the mouth of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brothers and their father. Thus there fell to Manasseh 10 portions beside the land of Gilead and Bashan, which is on the other side of the Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh, received an inheritance along with his sons. The land of Gilead was allotted to the rest of the people of Manasseh.
So you remember these ladies? We saw them back in Numbers 27. They came to Moses because there were no guys left in their group, and they were afraid their father's inheritance would just die. And Moses said, talked to God and said, okay, you get land. Because normally it wasn't allotted to women, but they got it. Now it's time to give it to them. That's why this story's in here. We saw them promised, and they're going to Joshua and say, hey, this was promised to us, it's time. And they're from the tribe of Manasseh. So that's why that went back, it's to include this story about how they got their land on the east side of the Jordan. If you remember, another big issue had come up, well, what about them marrying? What if they marry someone outside their tribe? The land wouldn't belong to Manasseh anymore, and the ruling was they could marry anyone they wanted within the tribe of Manasseh. The land had to stay within the tribe. If they married someone outside the tribe, the land went to...
Looks like they are great-great-daughters from Manasseh.
Yeah, they're... it's Zelophehad that had no sons, and they're descendants. He's a descendant. It goes through the line, and since there's about 400 years in that, we only see Heifer, Gilead, Machir, and Manasseh. There's more people, more guys in there. It doesn't get... In this genealogy, it doesn't include everybody in the line, because there'd be a lot more guys in 400 years. And again, this is in here because it was unusual for women to get an inheritance, but this shows that women could have an inheritance. But again, stressing the land had to stay with the tribe.
So if she married outside, then her portion would be split between her sisters, apparently, or
Well, they had a whole thing.
worked out.
Yeah, a whole thing saying who it would go back to. So
So she had a
and
lot to
I don't
think
know
about.
I don't know if we will ever hear about whether any of them married outside the tribe. I think they pretty much tried to stay within the tribe.
So now, all of this property, all of this area that God allowed these people, is all now belongs to other.
Most of that is Jordan
It's Jordan. Okay.
on the east side.
Okay. Because they
You
only
have
just have this one little area that everybody has allotted them now, right? I mean, they've lost all of the rest of it.
Well, most of what you see on the west side it belongs to them now. Not quite as far south as this, but and I'm not sure where Lebanon and Syria, the borderline is. A little from the north, a little from the south, but that is the bulk on the left side. That's the bulk of Israel today. And where Philistia is, that's Gaza.
And
Okay, gotcha.
where is the river to the sea?
What's that?
They sing it from the river to the sea. Is this Jordan River?
From the Jordan River to the sea. So when the cry is to about from the river to the sea, that means wiping them out. That's the whole area.
Gee.
Yeah,
Never.
yeah, not just taking a little piece of land. It's talking about wiping them out.
But it's not really that far. I mean, we look
No,
at
it's
it.
about 30. This is about 30 miles wide.
That we're looking at now.
From the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, about 30 miles.
Okay,
3 miles, did she say?
30.
Yep. It's not a big country.
No.
Yeah, it's the focus of the world.
Yes.
That land, and it has been for centuries because it's God's holy land. So it's going to draw people to it.
It just shows you how not doing what God tells you, what you pay, the price you pay. I mean, it's like,
Consequences.
Consequences.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So another note about this, we see them going, Eleazar is involved in this. But you remember that God promised only Caleb and Joshua that they would reach the promised land. But we got Eleazar. Eleazar is one of the guys that was wandering around in the desert with him. So I think maybe, I went back to look, but I couldn't find anything definitive. I think maybe God promised that they'd be the only non-Levites to cross. Because somehow Eleazar is allowed to cross it over, and he's a high priest. So, but I haven't found anything definitive about this. Okay, but now we're back to the other side of the river. We're just crossing that river back and forth. So verses 7 through 11 are all the villages. We're not going to read them, just verse 12 and 13.
Yet the people of Manasseh could not take possession of those cities, but the Canaanites persisted in dwelling in that land. Now the people of Israel grew strong. They put the Canaanites to forced labor, but did not utterly drive them out.
There it is again, another tribe not doing what God said. Same pattern as Ephraim. Some versions says that the Canaanites were determined to stay. Well, they were the ones that were living in the land that their land was taken over. Wouldn't you think? I mean, wouldn't you want to stay? I mean, you wouldn't want to be driven out of your homeland. So they went into forced labor. A nice word for slavery. They were slaves. Now, something that's really interesting in these, if you really are careful about where these boundaries are and stuff, they're kind of fluid. Especially with Ephraim. There's some cities on this list that we already saw given to Judah. It's like, okay, whose is it really? Maybe whoever actually takes it, because they're not doing such a great job of that. It's also a good time to remind you about how Hebrew did their directions. So any time you gave directions in Hebrew, you faced east. So if someone asked you for directions, you would just automatically go, wherever you were facing, you would go east. And left was north, and right was south. So you could say, go left, and it was always going to be north. Go backwards, you were going to go west. Go right, you were going to go south. I wonder if they still do that. It would be interesting to find out. But that's how they did that.
I know.
No, they just get their GPS, so.
Yeah, that's true.
The directions that you do anything in California is backwards from what you do in Utah. Like I worked in a title insurance company where you had to figure out the direction of the lands and things like that people own.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my son moved over here, he was in title over there. When he moved over here, he had to learn the whole different way.
Uh-huh.
Because, like you're saying, they do east.
Salt Lake.
Everything in California was taken by the north. You went north. Your map was north, and you went from there. Here, it's I don't know.
From the temple.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
From Salt Lake.
It's totally backwards
Yeah.
here to me.
From the Salt Lake Temple. Yeah.
Divides the land up. And stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still
So I
trying to learn
understand what
street
you're
numbering
talking
because
about
that just
here,
I know the street number now has to do with the original temple, but it's like I can't get it all.
And page number it's easy. It's just okay. It's 31 blocks east of the temple and 35 south. Or
Trouble is, nothing goes straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought when we
There
bought
are
our house that
located,
it faced north and south, but it's not. It's east and west.
Well,
And I cannot do directions from Utah.
yeah, telegraph goes north and south. No, it goes east and west.
Yeah, it's like,
Depends on what
what
part
the
of it.
heck? I thought the freeway ran north and south.
Crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so confusing over here to me.
Yeah, and then GPS doesn't like how Utah numbers streets with the 254 south, 571 north. Yeah, it doesn't like
It's
that.
hard to put it in.
Yeah. Well, it's like it says what?
GPS
What?
won't even take it.
Yeah, it doesn't understand it, but yeah. Okay, so let's see how this is an interesting little tidbit in here, verses 14 through 18.
Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, please.
The descendants of Joseph came to Joshua and asked, "Why have you given us only one portion of land as our homeland, when the Lord has blessed us with so many people?" Joseph replied, "If there are so many of you, and if the hill country of Ephraim is not large enough for you, clear out land for yourselves, in the forest where the Perizzites and Raphaites live." The descendants of Joseph responded, "It's true that the hill country is not large enough for us, but all the Canaanites in the lowlands have iron chariots, both those in Bethshan and its surrounding settlements, and those in the valley of Jezreel. They are too strong for us." Then Joshua said to the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the descendants of Joseph, "Since you are so large and strong, you will be given more than one portion. The forest of the hill country will be yours as well. Clear as much of the land as you wish and take possession of its furthest corners. And you will drive out the Canaanites from the valleys too, even though they are strong and have iron chariots."
Okay, so yeah, they were large tribes, and together they were far larger than anybody else. Notice they're coming to Joshua as the sons of Joseph, as one group. Notice they're using the pronouns I and me rather than we. They're talking as one group, and they're complaining. We haven't seen complaining for a while, so they had to get back to it. And what they mean by one allotment is they think they have what's equal to one allotment in usable land. Because they got a lot of hills and a lot of rugged forests. So they think, oh, we can't use that land. So it's not fair to us. What are we supposed to do? And besides, if we get past and go to the part that's usable, there's these guys with chariots. And they're scary. We don't want to deal with them. It's a lot of square miles. And there's a lot of fertile land in there. But they have to work to make it fertile or to make it usable. And they don't seem willing to do that.
No.
They'd have enough room if they would drive all the Canaanites out. But we already heard they didn't. They made them slaves. It's really kind of arrogant.
Is that sort of like their father, Joseph?
Well, it's like their mother, the Egyptians, more their attitude, don't you think?
Well, I mean, what about Joseph's attitude?
Yeah.
The Egyptians, though, if they wanted something, they took it.
Yeah.
So
Joshua or Joseph's kids are like, nah, give it to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say they're more
They're
like
special.
their dad than their mom.
Like my grandfather was the favorite son.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and Joshua's part of this group. Do you think they're thinking maybe he's part of us? Let's ask him for more. He'll give it to us. Yeah.
Do it.
And in contrast, if you remember last week, we talked about Caleb and how Caleb had come.
Yeah.
And it was humble.
And he was so humble. And Zelophehad's daughters, humble. Humble. Not them.
Well, it makes me think about what's going on today. They say for them to give up, stop fighting with these people, give it all up, let them live. Well, they did the same thing back then. They tell the people now, today, they say, okay, people, now we're going to bomb this section right here, so move over here. They did the same thing here. They didn't want to kill everybody. And so that they're doing the same thing today. But when the people move, the fighters and the evil people are moving with them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, people today,
Are judging them.
No, if you look at it, we say our God is a loving God. So he's not going to want us to kill those people. It says right here that he wants us to get rid of the evil.
All right.
We're the ones who say, oh no, killing, that's wrong.
That's right.
But yet we still are okay with killing innocent children, babies, all of that. We're okay with that. And us as Christians say, if it's not me, it's okay. Go ahead, do what you want. But the problem is we put God in this bubble and say he's so loving, so he doesn't want me to kill them. So just move over here.
Right.
And that's what they're saying here. When in reality, yes, he is a loving God, but he's also a just God. These people have hardened their hearts.
Right.
He wants them gone.
And they are teaching their children to hate the Israelites.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to get too far off. I want to get back.
Yeah.
So these people are challenging the lottery. Who controlled the lottery?
God.
They're challenging God.
They're
by
challenging
lacking
God.
Determination to do what he asked them to do.
Yeah. God had decided what land they were going to get.
Yeah.
And they're saying, oh, God made a mistake.
It's not enough.
Yeah. Not good enough for us.
And whining.
Yeah.
Big whiners.
And Joshua is not about to reverse God's lottery. He is not changing his mind. They're coming at him with everything, and he's saying,
Don't you
nope.
think Joshua and Moses at times just wanted to
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the tribes don't like Joshua's answer. Joshua's answer is, well, go clear out the land. You got plenty of land there. Go clear it out. You got plenty of people. Go clear out the land.
I like how he says it though. You've got a lot of people. Go ahead.
Yeah.
They're so numerous.
And they say, it's so hard. So hard. And when we clear out the land, yeah, those chariots are going to be there. And
They're lazy people.
yeah, they've already fought against guys with chariots and defeated them.
God help them.
Now, chariots were a fairly new invention. I mean, obviously they had them in Egypt 40 years earlier. Iron had been fairly recently developed. So iron chariots were like, whoa, the ultimate weapon. Israel will not use chariots until the time of Solomon. So,
Behind them curve.
yeah. Now, two of the areas that these tribes get are Megiddo and Jezreel. Really fertile land. Probably the most fertile in the nation, in all of Israel. But that's where those guys with the chariots are. So scary, scary things. Again, way different attitude than Caleb. Caleb said, give me the tough stuff. I'm going in and getting it. And they're saying, oh no, hard. They didn't want to trust God's promises and take what God had given them. How many times are we afraid to trust what God promises us?
And we want to Christ salvation, but not to do our part.
Yeah.
Let somebody else or just hide or just like them.
Yeah. sometimes we want more. We want more from God, but we haven't fulfilled what He's given us to do already. But we want more. Well, take care of what you're supposed to take care of first.
Well, not, because they hadn't even developed the land they were given, and they were already complaining.
Nope, not at all.
Maybe they didn't want to work. Maybe
No.
wanted the slaves
They
to do
wanted
all
e-
the work.
They wanted easy land.
Yeah.
They wanted everything given to them. Again, way different than Caleb.
This is what they
God,
say.
you gave us this land, so just give it to us.
Yeah. Where's the part about giving to us?
Yes.
No, they had to do their part too. And Joshua, they keep going at Joshua, and they're saying, "There's a forest." Joshua says, "Well, cut the trees down." Now, something to remember is that their parents had come from Egypt. How many forests are there in Egypt? How many hills are there in Egypt? These are not hill forest people. They are going to have to learn to be hill forest people. The land of Goshen they came from was flat. So they had no experience with this, something new. They are going to learn how to do terrace farming, which they had never had any experience with before, but they're going to learn it. These people. Now Joshua 18, I think we made. Verse 1.
Now the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh, and set up the tabernacle of meeting there. And the land was subdued before them.
Okay, so they had been at Gilgal, and now they are moving to Shiloh. Does Shiloh, I didn't even look, does Shiloh show up on our map?
It says silo is probably.
Yeah, Shiloh, where the star is
Yeah,
in
and it's
Ephraim.
Bethel, the Betel under Ephraim.
But that's not the Bethlehem. But that's
No, Bethlehem's
Bethel.
down further.
Bethel's a very common city name. But
So where were they until they were given their allotment?
they stayed by the tabernacle.
So
They're just all gathered together.
because they haven't been given any.
They haven't been dismissed.
Yeah.
We're going to see them dismissed later. It was like, okay, these Manasseh, you got your land, go get it. Well,
Class is over.
no, they're not dismissed.
He hasn't said class is over
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, I was thinking. I read ahead. They're dismissed later. Although then again, we've run across it before. They're not really good at doing chronological, so they may have been dismissed earlier, but we're going to run into a thing where they're dismissed. So the rest of the divisions are going to be done at Shiloh. Shiloh is their spiritual and political capital. They moved.
Ephraim? Of just Ephraim?
No, of everybody. It is
Everybody.
of the nation. If you look at it where it is says Shiloh, it's kind of pretty evenly spaced. Everyone can get to it pretty easy. They are setting up the tabernacle there. And remember, they have rules where 3 times a year they're all supposed to gather for these feasts. That makes it pretty central for everyone to get to. It's going to stay there for 300 years. It doesn't say it, but it must have been at God's direction that they moved. Because that's a big deal move. So they set up the tabernacle. I'm sure we're going to see that they're going to be told, okay, start doing your sacrifices and everything else. They haven't been doing all that. It hasn't really been set up. So it says they moved the tabernacle. That means everything else too. The ark and the table of showbread, everything got moved. And they set up the altars. It's ready. It's ready for full service. Now, Shiloh is about 15 miles north of Jerusalem. And in the land of Ephraim, and so again, easy for everyone to get to.
Where is Jerusalem?
Jerusalem is at the bottom of Benjamin.
See Benjamin, the word Benjamin?
Yeah, under Ephraim, there's Benjamin,
It's right under the A.
and right under, yeah.
Here it is.
Although,
I don't have it, I have a map in my Bible, but what is it that Israel has right now, if we look at this map?
they pretty much have most of what's on the left side of the River Jordan. Cut off some at the top and some at the bottom. But that central area is theirs.
So they still have,
That's the area they have. And during different wars, they've gained and lost
right,
parts of it. And that whole southern part, they've gained and lost that. It's desert. So
Then now where is Manasseh? Is that Lebanon or Syria?
no, that's body of water that is that in Naphtali. That's the Sea of Galilee. That's still part of Israel. So north of that, somewhere across Asher and Naphtali is where Lebanon and Syria are. Okay, so I'll look for a good map of Israel today overlaid over this one.
yeah. Because I've seen it, but I don't, I lose where it is.
Yeah. But most of this, the central part, is Israel today.
And it's only how many miles across?
30.
Yeah, 30.
30 miles across from
Yeah. Yeah, it's not big.
to what we're talking about
No.
here.
Not a big land.
Looks
Think
a
of
lot
Rhode
more
Island.
on the map than
It looks a lot more, but if you put it on a world map, it's a tiny little
Yeah.
sliver. Okay, let's look at verses 2 and 3. Brenda, are you okay with reading?
Sure.
Okay.
But 7 tribes among the Israelites were left who had not divided up their inheritance. So Joshua asked the Israelites, "How long will you delay going out to take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, gave you?"
So we still need to see 7 tribes get their land. And it's been at least a year. And doesn't seem like these guys are in a rush to get their land.
They're not interested.
They're kind of satisfied with things the way they are.
Well, they're gonna have to fight, right?
Yeah,
No, not yet.
maybe there might be a little skirmish here or there, but no, they haven't had to do anything major. They're just chilling.
Okay.
They weren't searching out for what God was giving them. They were kind of apathetic. And Joshua basically asked, "Why haven't you gotten off your lazy bottoms to go get what God gave you?" No, they don't answer.
So they're waiting for a trumpet to blow or something.
They're just satisfied with life
No,
as it
Joshua
is.
was fighting for
Like
them.
we've come this far, we're just going to.
Yeah,
Rest.
we're tired. We like this. They were satisfied with being nomads because they were living only in tents, so they were happy with that. For a lot of them, that's all they've ever known is living in a tent, wandering through the desert.
Because they are the younger two.
Yeah, and yeah, they seem to be afraid to go fight.
Oh my goodness, this lesson is so precious to me because there is so much relation with our life now, spiritual life. We are
Yeah.
just there, and then the Lord wants us to be there.
Yeah,
There
how
is
many
much
of us
treasure.
are apathetic about it?
Yes,
We're just
there is
happy
much
to be.
treasure and deep in the Word of God, and we are just satisfied if we have little.
And God has so much for us, but
I
we're not
know.
not willing to take it. Okay, Janice, you get a chunk.
Okay.
4 through 10.
Appoint 3 men from each tribe. I will send them out to make a survey of the land and to write a description of it, according to the inheritance of each. Then they will return to me. You are to divide the land into 7 parts. Judah is to remain in its territory on the south, and the house of Joseph in its territory on the north. After you have written descriptions of the 7 parts of the land, bring them here to me, and I will cast lots for you in the presence of the Lord our God. The Levites, however, do not get a portion among you, because the priestly service of the Lord is their inheritance. And Gad, Reuben, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have already received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan. Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave it to them. As the men started on their way to map out the land, Joshua instructed them, "Go and make a survey of the land and write a description of it. Then return to me, and I will cast lots for you here at Shiloh in the presence of the Lord." So the men left and went through the land. They wrote its description on a scroll, town by town, in 7 parts, and returned to Joshua in the camp of Shiloh. Joshua then cast lots for them in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord, and there he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their tribal divisions.
Okay, so first time we hear about this survey thing. So Joshua must have consulted God about this, and so 3 men from each of the 7 tribes, so 21 men, wanted to make sure it was done fairly, and they were sent out to survey the land and to figure out 7 plots. So these guys had to be like engineers almost, or geographers, to be able to figure out, because not only did they have to figure out areas, again, it was important what the land was like. Because, I mean, you look at Manasseh and Judah, and it looks like they really made out, but a lot of their land is, well, Manasseh on the east side, a lot of the land is desert. So you can have acres and acres of desert, but you'd rather have an acre of fertile land. So so they had to do all this figuring. It had to be pretty complicated.
Yeah. I get 8. How am I getting 8 portions when I count?
We've already done Reuben, Gad, Manasseh, Ephraim, Judah.
So we're not talking about Asher and Naphtali up at the top.
They will be included. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Asher,
Philistia,
Naphtali,
don't count
Zebulun,
Philistia.
Dan, Benjamin, Simeon.
Yeah.
Judah?
Judah, we already did Judah. Judah,
Okay.
they were like the
All
first.
right.
That's Caleb's
2, 3,
tribe.
4, 5, 6. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, Jewish historians say these guys had to be experts in geometry. I think they had to be experts in lots of things.
They could know their little survey.
Yeah, and they were to write down what they surveyed, because I don't imagine all 21 traveled together. They were probably split up, and they were to ignore the land that was already given to Judah, Manasseh, and Ephraim.
I wonder about the time frame here. That would have taken some time.
That would take.
Oh, yeah.
I know we always, when we read it, it just seems like it goes so fast. Okay, they're going to go out and be in like a week later. Probably not a week later. It's probably months and months and months later before this happens.
No.
And in the meantime, everyone's still just chilling. So then Joshua is going to cast the lots, and remember, according to God. It was important that it was before God, because he didn't want any more tribe of Joseph coming at him and saying, we disagree. You disagree with God. You take it up with him. So the rest of this chapter in chapter 19 are the assignment of the tribes. We're going to skip lots of things. First tribe, Benjamin. And Benjamin's tribe was 45,600. Verse 11 says, the lot of the tribe of the people of Benjamin, according to its clans, came up, and the territory allotted to it fell between the people of Judah and the people of Joseph. And then we get all their borders. So Benjamin looks small, but it's good land. Good land. They get the land of Jebus, or the city of Jebus, which is Jerusalem. It's not named Jerusalem at this point. It lists 14 cities or 14 towns in there. So a famous Benjamite, the first king,
So,
Saul. And then something, they must like the name Saul in that tribe because the Apostle Paul, who is named Saul, was a Benjamite.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're between Judah and Ephraim. It's a fairly small tribe, so not a big lot of land. It's about 25 miles altogether, or 25 miles wide and 15 miles across at its widest. But it gets important cities like we saw. They get Jerusalem, Jericho. They get Jericho. They get Gibeon. Remember the Gibeonites?
mm-hmm.
The ones that they made the treaty with? That's in their land. They get Ramah. That's Samuel's hometown. But it does get a little confusing because we see they're given Jebus, which is Jerusalem, but that was given to Judah. So it's like, okay, who gets it? No one actually ever gets it till Solomon comes along, or David. I think David conquers Jerusalem. So it's like it was given to two tribes, but it doesn't matter. Neither one of them take it till later. There's 10 cities in this list that we never see anywhere else, but there's lots of cities. Okay, and I think that maybe we're going to stop. We're going to catch all the rest of the tribes. That'll go really quick.
So now we are where?
Chapter 19. The rest of those tribes are going to come fast and furious.
That was the man.
Yeah. I was thinking we were going to run out of time, but we didn't. So, okay, let me